Welcome back, focused learners, to another explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're tackling something that has literally driven almost every single web developer completely up the wall at some point. We're solving one of the most frustrating, totally silent bugs in web development. You know the exact type. No loud error messages, no obvious syntax mistakes, just a feature that flat out refuses to work. Picture this highly relatable scenario from our source material today. You've built a perfectly working Show More button for your website. You click it, the content expands beautifully, click it again, and it tucks right back away. It's absolutely flawless. But then, just for organizational reasons, you take your perfectly good JavaScript file and move the script tag from the bottom of your HTML body right up into the HTML head. You hit refresh, click the button, and zero. Nothing happens. It completely crashes. So why did moving just one single line of code break the entire page?
Okay, let's dive into Section 1, the broken script mystery.
Our source outlines this exact headache. So you have this neat little script controlling a Show More expansion feature. When the script lives at the very bottom of the page, everything's happy. But the split second it gets popped into the HTML head section at the top of the document, the functionality totally stops working. The code itself hasn't changed at all. The logic is identical, yet the button is completely dead. To figure out why this happens, we actually have to look at how a browser reads a web page.
Which brings us to Section 2, top to bottom loading reality.
Let's literally walk through this millisecond by millisecond browser journey. Browsers read HTML files strictly in order, from top to bottom. So in step 1, it loads the HTML head. Moving to step 2, it spots your newly moved JavaScript and immediately jumps right into executing it. Now look at step 3. Your script runs and asks the browser to find, say, document.getElementById content. But here is the fatal flaw. The browser hasn't even reached step 4 yet. It hasn't loaded the rest of the HTML body. As far as the browser knows, that content div simply does not exist yet. It's basically looking for a house that hasn't even been built. 0. That is exactly the number of HTML elements available to your script when it fires prematurely from the head. And our source notes are a really important caveat here. Even if you do leave your scripts at the very bottom of the page, they can actually still suffer this exact same fate. If you have a massive HTML file that's still downloading heavy resources, the script might execute before everything above it has fully initialized. So we need a bulletproof way to manage this timing. Let's look at how to fix this in Section 3, the window.onload solution. Before we write the actual fix, we need to know what we're targeting. In JavaScript, window is the global object that represents the actual open browser window you're looking at. Think of it as the ultimate container for literally everything happening on your page. And this gives us access to our magic tool, window.onload. Think of this as the ultimate pause button. When you assign a function to window.onload, you're giving the browser a very strict instruction. You're saying, do absolutely nothing with this JavaScript until every single HTML tag, every image, every resource in that window is fully loaded and ready to be interacted with. It completely eliminates that race condition we talked about because the script flat out refuses to run until the track is fully built. Now that we have the fix, let's talk about Section 4, organizing code like a pro. Right, so you could implement this the messy way. You could take all the JavaScript logic for your Show More button and just copy and paste it directly inside the anonymous window.onload function block. And yes, sure, it would run, but as the source material points out, this is incredibly untidy. Imagine if you had 10 different interactive features on your page. Sticking all of that logic inside one single onload function creates a massive, unreadable, and totally tangled file. And this brilliantly illustrates the difference in approach. That stuffed, bloated onload function is an absolute nightmare to maintain. But taking the organized approach, instead of dumping the code, we're calling a dedicated setup events function. We are abstracting the logic. This is exactly how professional code bases are structured, separating the when things happen from what is actually happening. So, here are the exact steps to achieve that beautifully clean architecture. First, you create a brand new dedicated function. Let's name it setup events. Second, you take all of your DOM event logic, all that code to grab the button and the content div, and you place it securely inside this new function. Finally, step 3, you go to your window.onload event, and the only thing you put inside it is a call to setup events. Now when the window finally loads, it politely taps your setup function on the shoulder and says, okay, the HTML's ready. Do your thing. Finally, Section 5, when to actually use it. So the crucial point is to remember these main takeaways. HTML always loads top to bottom. You absolutely must use onload when your JavaScript needs to interact with DOM elements to prevent it from firing blindly into the void. Always extract your logic into clean setup functions to keep your codebase tidy. But take note of that last rule. You don't have to use onload for every single script you write. If you have a piece of JavaScript that just, say, does math or handles background data, and it doesn't care about the HTML structure at all, it doesn't need to wait. Use this tool specifically for elements that rely on the page being fully rendered.
I want to leave you with this question to ponder as we wrap up today's explainer. How much of your JavaScript is firing before your page even exists? It might just be time to open up your current projects, hunt down those top-to-bottom race conditions, and start refactoring with a beautifully organized window onload event. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, focused learners, and happy coding!